Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. So several weeks ago I did a full video on the xTool M1 Ultra and everything that machine can do. In that video I used the printhead module to print on just cardstock and cut like a gift tag. However, when I was doing that video I mentioned that actually they state that printing module can print on any porous surface. So today I thought I would put it to the test and print on wood. So we are going to print on wood with the xTool M1 Ultra, variety of wood surfaces, and see how well it works, see what kind of projects I'm able to make, and that way hopefully you get a better idea of what this machine can do, whether it's right for you, or if you already have this machine, what can you make with it? So first I'm printing simple little tags. If you wanted to print something on wood and then cut around it, yes, the xTool M1 Ultra can do that. So let's take a look at the process for printing and cutting on a wood sheet. You're gonna open xTool Creative Space, click the image button and find the image on your computer. Resize that image to be whatever size you would like it to be. And then I wanna cut around this, so I'm gonna choose basic shapes and choose a rounded square shape, unlock that, and then I'm going to resize the square to fit around my design. Click anywhere over here on the outside and we're going to go over here and click multi-module processing. This will allow you to do multiple things with your xTool M1 Ultra. Then click each layer. So for the square, I'm going to use my laser module, 10 watt, and I'm going to cut, and then I can set my power and speed, and a single pass seems to be fine. Then I'm going to pick my next layer and I'm going to change that module to the ink module. Then it indicates inkjet printing, and you can change the intensity if you would like. Then you just want to make sure that your machine is connected, and let's head to the machine and see what we need to do there. Within the machine you will need to add the inkjet module first. So we're going to go ahead and add the inkjet module and plug it in. When you're doing this process you do have to have the base plate installed, so if you have the riser base, be sure to put that base plate back inside. And then there's also a plate that goes with the inkjet module, and you will need to put it over on the side. You'll remove the cap from the inkjet module and place it on that plate. Then this is ready to process. So I'm going to click go to process. You can see that it tells me there are two tasks. The first task is calling for that ink module. That's why we put it in first. So make sure you have the base plate installed as well as that ink module. And you do want to be sure that you have the placing board in place and the lower cover is on the placing board. So we have done all that already, so I can go ahead and click start. First, the xTool M1 will measure the distance, and then it is going to be ready for processing. So you just click the button on the front of the xTool M1 Ultra to start the process. The first thing that the inkjet module will do is it will go to the side and it will go down on to the pad of paper to make sure that enough ink is flowing. Now here's an example where not enough ink is flowing within the magenta. Now there are several things you can do to get that ink flowing, and those are included on the xTool website, and I will link to that in the description below this video. So if you are having issues with your ink not flowing and not printing correctly, when it makes the mark on the pad of paper, go ahead and stop the laser with the button on the front and go ahead and follow those steps. Those include using a wet tissue on the cartridge itself, as well as soaking it in water for a few seconds. What you're looking for is 3 complete lines on your pad before you start this process. You might also consider doing a few test prints on something like paper as well to get the ink flowing if you're having issues. Once that processing is completed, you will see that on your screen. You can click next to proceed to the next task. This is going to ask you for the next module. So we're going to change this module out for the laser module. So we're going to remove the cable, lift the lever. Be careful not to disturb your wood on the bottom. Lift this one up. The machine itself, once it finished printing, it put the cap back onto the inkjet module, so you don't have to worry about that. Add the laser module into place. And close the lever. Then close the lid of the xTool M1 Ultra. Once you have that done, you can click Start 2 of 2. It may want to home again because you have changed that head out. Once it's done homing, you can click Start. It will auto measure your distance, and then press the button on the front to start the cut. Once that cut is complete, we can lift the lid and remove this from the machine. So this is printing and cutting on plain wood. Let's take a look at how to do this on other surfaces. What if you want to print on something that's already a shape or already cut? I have the xTool M1 Ultra set up in the same way, but I've added a scrap piece of paper on the bottom. And then I'm going to add my shape right to this paper. Now let's take a look in xTool Creative Space at the steps. I uploaded an image just like before. And this time I need to know where my star is located. I'm going to use one method of finding that. If you click over here to the side, you should have this Obtain Background button. We're going to click that. To do this, you will need the xTool Creative Space app on your phone. Click to add a new project, then click Snapshot. What you will do is take a photo of the bed of your laser, and you want to make sure that the entire base plate is included within this photo. Once you take that photo, you will click Send to Computer, and you will scan that QR code that is on xTool Creative Space on your computer. Now you do need to make sure that the laser you're using is connected to Creative Space on your phone, and it's the same laser that's connected to Creative Space on your computer. Once you do that, you can see the background on your screen, and you could align the image to fit that. So you can resize the image and align it to fit onto whatever material you're using. I even cropped the image in a little bit so I would not waste any ink. Now I'm going to click the image itself, make sure that I have ink module selected, inkjet printing, and I did up the intensity a bit because this is a photograph. Then we can click Go to Process, Start to go ahead and print this design. For this next print, I have a piece of white painted wood, and I'm going to use the second method of locating a design, which is framing. So I have my design located approximately where I think it should be. I'm going to click Framing within xTool Creative Space, and I'm going to press the button on the front to start the framing. I can then see approximately where it will be on the surface itself, and I can make adjustments if needed. When you start your print, the print head moves over to that pad of paper and it touches down, and it gives you something on the paper. Now, when I first started printing, it looked like this. So as soon as it touched down, I immediately hit the button on the front of the xTool M1 Ultra to stop the printing process. You can see that I have all the yellow and all the blue, but the magenta is only going part way. So I wanted to fix that before I actually started printing. So if you're not getting all of your colors, you can stop the print itself. Now, it may be that you just need to stop the print and restart it a few times and just get the print head to touch down on this piece of paper. After a few times of doing that, all the colors might come through. Mine did not. So I needed to follow some of the recommendations on the xTool website. Some of those are to use a tissue that is damp, to press it to the underside of the print head. There was another recommendation to soak the print head in a little bit of water. I did several of those, and I will link to that document in the description below this video. After doing those, I was able to get something that looked like this. Now my magenta still is not complete. I went ahead with the print process even though my magenta was not complete because I had worked through this for an hour or more at this point and was not getting complete lines. I still think my printing looked pretty good, but it might have been more vibrant if I was able to get 3 full lines on my paper before starting the process. So here's that finished piece where I both printed and cut around the wood. Now I wanted to show you the difference. So this is a darker wood than this one. So it was originally a darker wood piece. With the darker wood piece, you are going to get a different look because the ink is going to be translucent. So you're going to be able to see some of the base color through the ink. So it is going to alter your colors and alter the look of the project you're able to get. So do note that when you're printing on anything with a color. So I did a few different projects here. I did want to note that the xTool website says you can print on things up to 20 millimeters thick. With these shapes that were pre-cut, I was not able to do that. Like with this shape, it is nowhere near 20 millimeters thick. However, the printhead was running right on top of the shape, and when it got to this last portion, it actually hit the shape and moved it off, so I just stopped the printing process. But I did want to show you what it looks like with that overprint. So it does overprint around that outside edge. However, I did not have any luck with like thicker blanks. So I went to something that was slightly thinner, and this is just slightly thinner, but it did work better, did not move. I did do the overprint process for this one again. And for this one, I tried to print 2 different images on the same wood piece. It did work. However, I will say that the lighter pastel colors don't pop off as much on just plain wood that isn't painted. And then the other thing is that the location method that I used for this round doesn't work great. So I had this where it was not printing on here, according to the process where I went through and took the photograph of the base. However, when it actually printed, it did print on here. Same thing with the star, it was moved slightly over. So you may need to make adjustments if you use that method of locating your print. Now there is another method to locate your print, and let's take a look at that. So this was that final project printed on the white painted wood. And again, it doesn't pop off as much as I would like, so I would probably up my saturation and everything a little bit more. So maybe up the intensity to 100, maybe bump the saturation on any image you print. That way you get a brighter, more vibrant look. But this does prove that this will work on painted wood. Now with any project that you make, you will need to seal it if you want it to have any type of water resistance. So this is just printed directly on this piece, and I actually stopped the print, so this one is messed up anyway. And if I am to use something wet, that ink will come right off. So you will need to do some kind of sealer if you expect your project to get wet at all, because it is not permanent if it gets wet at this stage. So just printed, it would not be permanent. It would lift when it comes in contact with water. Okay, so now you saw that I was able to print on a wide variety of surfaces. So after I finished filming this video, I decided to take a look at some other videos out there on YouTube. I wanted to see if I could find out if anyone had a trick for printing on thicker objects, and I didn't find that. However, I did find a video from Ashley Falco, and I'm just going to link to that in the description below this video. She had a very cool masking technique right in xTool Creative Space where you could mask more of the area off when you're printing on odd shapes. Now with super odd shapes, it's going to be a little more difficult to get that mask, but she did have a method to do that. But if you had just a plain rectangle that you wanted to print on, she did have a great way to mask that off. And that way you're not wasting your ink with the over printing around the edges. So I thought that was an amazing idea. And so I'm just going to link to her video in the description below this one. So if you're thinking, I don't want to waste that much ink, Angie, then head there and see a masking technique that might work for the object you want to print on. So now, printing with the xTool M1 Ultra on wood. How do I like it? So I did like it. I do think on regular plain wood with nothing on it, it gives more of a rustic look. Because that wood grain is going to show through that ink, it does give a more rustic appearance to me. And I would up your intensity, your saturation, like everything, I would up that just to get more ink on the surface to get a more intense look. I feel like most of the time, most of us are looking for a more intense look when it comes to these projects. So I would go ahead and up that. No matter if it's a photograph or just a graphic, I think upping the intensity will help your projects turn out a little bit better. Now, the method of locating the design by taking the picture of the base of the xTool M1 Ultra, I feel like you're gonna have to tweak it. I never did get an exact location with that method. I probably prefer the framing method. So framing it out and seeing where it's going to sit on the surface like I used with the wood round, I probably prefer that a little bit more. However, you can definitely use the other method. Try both, see which one you like, see which one works best for what you are making. And then once you try both, you'll probably get a really good idea of which one you like best and which one works best for the projects you're making. And I must say, I was thrilled that it would print on white painted wood. I was hoping it would, and it really did the job there. So I would probably prefer to print on a white painted wood. I feel like my pastel colors that I really like to use looked a little bit better on the white painted surface rather than the wood surface. So I would probably paint my projects personally. However, you can use this video to decide which one is right for you. And maybe make some small projects, like little bitty projects, sort of like this one. So you can tell if, does like light wood work for you? Does dark wood? Paint some wood and do the same thing. And you can kind of tell from there which way is going to work best for the project that you have in mind with that printhead module. Now, I only tried wood in this video. It does say it works on porous surfaces, and I do feel like that's where you would probably get the best results. However, I did mention the video from Ashley Falco. She did use like a ceramic coaster as well as some acrylic that she was printing on. So you want to see her tips and tricks for how to do that. Again, I'm going to link to her video in the description below this one, so head there and see even more printing ideas, because you just can't get enough printing ideas with the xTool M1 Ultra. So if you have any questions about anything I covered, drop down in the comment section, ask away. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.